Welcome to WTPN, We the People Network. I'm Doug Malo, and I'm here with my co-host, Ed Dolezal. Today, we have another special treat. Ed is going to introduce us to Gong. Aside from being our WTPN co-host, Ed is also the founder and senior instructor of Universal Gong and Tai Chi Institute located in the Palm Beaches of Florida. So Ed, not only are you a common law Jedi, but you're working to master the arts as well.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate the opportunity to provide some information and educate people about Qigong. Yeah, I've been practicing this for well over 20 years at this point in time. And my principal teacher has been Master Teresa Yun, who learned her skills and talents from Grandmaster Wai Chao Wu, who was now passed on. I had the opportunity to meet with him a couple decades ago, basically. And yeah, it's something that I felt called to do and to learn and to teach. And I have numerous students that I've taught this to over the years, and many of them have graced me with their testimonials, which you'll find on my website. So,
well, excellent. Sounds great. I have a couple of questions because I am familiar with Tai Chi. I know we've done a segment on that, but I am not familiar with Qigong, and I'm very excited to hear about it. So my first question is, is there a difference between Tai Chi and Qigong?
yeah,
And if so, can you kind of just elaborate on that?
sure. As I might have touched in our previous episode, they are both at opposite ends of the spectrum, if you will. So to begin with, Qigong is on the yin, Y-I-N side of the spectrum. Yin energy is healing energy, and it's related to traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. So this practice of Qigong, and there are many, many, many different forms of it, has been practiced for thousands of years. It's really something that has been part of the Chinese culture, and it's been very successful in helping people in many different ways. For example, I have a good story about this. The Qigong masters have usually been associated with the royal courts of the Chinese warlords, kings, etc. And their abilities related to traditional Chinese medicine included the ability to do healing work. My master teacher, Teresa, calls it Fa Qi, and I am a Fa Qi Si. I am a healing practitioner, which I've learned along with her over the years, and I do this both in person and also remotely or at a distance. Doesn't matter to me whether you happen to be in the same room or across the world. I can connect into the etheric body of the individual and send energy, healing energy to that individual wherever he or she may be. So the story goes that these people were so prized by the emperors and warlords that their talents were hidden. They would usually accompany the warlords onto the battlefield, and whenever a soldier or an officer was injured on the battlefield, they would immediately apply their skills to be able to rectify whatever situation was present, injury, whatever, and return them into the battle. There is a very old, so with that being said, you can appreciate the fact that much of this information was hidden, kept secret, and confidential for thousands of years, because it provides a strategic advantage to whoever is employing those practitioners. So there is a very old grainy video on YouTube, and it's difficult to find, but I know that it is there, they actually show in a traditional medicineless hospital a woman who has a tumor in her uterus. And you have the screen that shows the tumor on one side of the screen, and you show that shows the screen on the other side that provides the information about the progress. Three Qigong masters are standing around her and applying the energy, if you will, and you progressively see the tumor shrinking on the other half of the screen, and all of this in under 4 minutes.
Oh,
So
it's remarkable, if I may. You're basically saying that these guys were like really acting as field medics, like we have in true life now, where they wrap with bandages, and if it's not, a dire, they can put the guy back into battle. That's remarkable. Very,
yeah.
very, very interesting. Go on. I'm sorry.
So with that being said, yes, these qigong masters were also, in most cases, traditional Chinese medicine doctors. So they would use acupuncture, they would use bandages, etc. They would use herbs, if you will, that we find pretty much in all cultures around the world, right? So their skills and talents have been very prized, and they've been around since forever. So getting back to Qigong specifically, I started practicing, 20 years ago plus. And the best way to describe it, if you will, your elevator phrase is, it is acupuncture without needles. So it's a self-healing practice. And of course, like anything else in life, if you don't practice it, you get no results. But I consistently practice this every single day of my life for the past 20 years. And I attribute to this practice the fact that I no longer use medicine for any of my respiratory issues. And, I'm it works. So there are different types of Qigong for different purposes. Um, there is a Qigong form to help people with cancer, for example, so you can dissipate the cancer.
Question.
There,
Is it, I'm sorry to interrupt you again, forgive me, but I want to ask questions as they come to mind, and maybe the audience has the same question. So is it necessary for you to act, or a master or instructor to act as a healer? Is it important for the person that's being healed to be practicing the art as well, or can it be applied just as traditional medicine might be, or alternative medicine might be applied to the patient?
right. So good question. And the key thing is that we have to retain the fact that the body heals itself, number one. Number two, the role of the Fa Chi Si, or the healing practitioner, is there to help with the educational process and the acceleration of the healing. Ultimately, it comes down to the man or woman to heal themselves. And yes, I always teach my students a form that I have been practicing for decades, so that they can integrate what can be beneficial to them. So essentially, I guess I should describe what the process is, if you will. It involves really very simple things such as breath work, visualization, intention, and very gentle movements. So, for example, there are some very specific, simple movements that enhances the circulation of the synovial fluid. The synovial fluid, if you will, is like WD-40 for the joints. If you don't practice movement in your body, you lose it. So it becomes very, very important to practice this type of protocol in order to maintain flexibility, youth. In fact, it is said that when you practice Qigong, you actually arrest, and in certain cases, depending upon your dedication, you can improve your vitality, obviously, but also you can arrest aging. The aging process can be stopped, and actually you can rejuvenate yourself. So,
The synovial fluid, if I may, is very interesting. I know that as we get older, uh, we also, people always complain about their joints are cracking or they hear cricking, or it's not just like where you're cracking your knuckles, but when you walk or you move, your joints will crack. And my understanding, limited understanding, is that the synovial fluid is very important because that's what's causing that. And so you're saying certain techniques that you use can help to increase the synovial fluid throughout the body and in the joints. Is that what?
yes, in particular in the joints. I'll show you, I'll demonstrate something very simple. For example, the tiger hand. If you grip your fingers like a tiger paw, hold it and release, relax, tighten and release, you're actually having all those digits work, and it will take advantage of the synovial fluid that's part of your constitution. I mean, there's another one. You can use the eagle claws, same thing, and release. And the same thing applies to the wrist. Turn it outwards, both wrists,
Hmm,
and reverse.
that feels great. I can feel
Yeah,
it already. It feels better. Wow, that's
yeah.
wonderful. I'm sorry
So those,
to interrupt again, but I did know about the synovial fluid, and I know that that cracking is a problem with a lot of people, and it seems like this would be excellent for it.
yeah. So, those are some of the things that can be possible. I mean, I'm still wearing glasses and I shouldn't, because ironically, the thing that attracted me initially to Qigong was that there is actually an I Qigong form. I know all the steps and everything, but I have not practiced it, so you get no result. But there is a I Qigong form that if you practice it on a consistent basis, you won't need glasses anymore. So maybe I should look at that again. And there are specific forms in order to accelerate the, for example, breathing is a big issue. And there are certain movements that you can do in order to enhance your breathing capacity. And everything we do in Qigong is related to the organs within the body. And yeah, so it's a practice. And the other thing is, which is very interesting, and I do have an anecdote that I'll share with you. When I started practicing Qigong or learning Qigong many years ago, I had begun feeling in one of the classes that I was attending very excruciating pain in my left knee. It so happens that that knee had been operated on by a very, very good friend of mine who's a surgeon, specialized in that kind of thing. The operation was a success. I mean, I was walking on it, never had a problem running, etc. And so I inquired with my Qigong master, said, Master Teresa, why am I having this pain? Her answer was very simple. The operation was a success, but the healing was never complete. So my point with this is that when you begin practicing Qigong, the Qi is intelligent, divine energy. It knows where it needs to go in the body, and that's where it travels to in order to improve your condition and your physiology. So, obviously, I have very little negative things to say, if anything. But the bottom line is, if you don't learn it and you don't practice it, you'll get no benefit.
Like anything else, right? Let me ask,
Absolutely.
let me ask you this question, if I will. We talked when we did our last show with you. We talked about Tai Chi, and I'm curious: are these arts that should be learned simultaneously, or is it better to focus on one art and then another? or can they be learned together? Is there a synergy of learning them together, or is it better to focus on one and then another?
Well, um, let me answer that question this way. I started with Qigong because I was called to do healing work. I actually began with Reiki. Reiki is the equivalent of Fa Chi for the Japanese, right? Master Usui out of Japan developed that system. And I went all the way up to the third degree, et cetera. So I could do remote healing and whatnot. But I was really attracted to Qigong, as I mentioned to you earlier, because of the vision aspect. And that's where I stayed for, a good number of years. And then I felt the call that I needed to develop the ability to do Tai Chi, which is a martial art, which energy combines both yin but mostly yang energy. Yang energy is male energy, while yin is female energy, the healing energy. Yang is for fighting, right? So it really depends what resonates with you strongest. Can you do them both? Of course. Should you start with one versus the other? It really is up to the individual in terms of, what is it that they want to achieve. So for me, it's been for many, many years, it was on the yin side because of the healing aspects. I wanted to be of service to my community. And then finally, I was intrigued by a certain type of certain aspects of the martial arts, if you will. And so I've learned with the latest master in the past 5 years, although I've been doing Tai Chi for 15 years, these new forms that we mentioned before. So it really is up to the individual, what resonates for you, what are you trying to accomplish, what are you looking to do? It all depends. So can you do them both? Yeah, you can actually use some Qigong as warm-up exercises before you do your Tai Chi. So, we do both in the school that I'm at right now.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm going to take us to a little different direction. Obviously, WTPN, it's your channel too.
Yeah,
We talk about, a lot of the restrictions that are being put on people from governments. They're shutting down and controlling. And I was doing a little research, and I found out that some say that there's up to 2 million practitioners throughout China for this art. It's a remarkable amount. Even if it's half of that, it's remarkable. And somewhere in 1999, 2000, the response of the Chinese people was so widespread that they were developing this revival. They were reviving all these old traditions in these arts, and spiritually, their morality, their mysticism, and everything was elevated, and they were perceiving and developing challenges to the state control. They were going up against the state control because of it. And the Chinese government started to enforce and control the public practice of Qigong. And they actually shut down a bunch of Qigong clinics, hospitals, and they were banning certain Qigong groups and masters. I don't know if you know about this, but obviously you know about what we're going through here in the States and all over the world. So I thought I'd kind of bring that in to mesh the two ideas with what WTPN and what we do in the discussion that we're having today.
sure. So what you're referring to is called the Falun Gong movement in China. It did capture the attention and succeeded in getting a very significant following. And clearly, the Communist Party in China was not enamored with it because they felt that they were going to lose control. I think they successfully were able to drive that practice out of the mainstream, if you will. I'm not sure whether it's still going on, but I don't really think that you could ever terminate anybody's desire to learn this and to practice this. China's probably 1.5 billion people at this point, and I think the couple of million that you refer to has gone on the low side. I think people are actually a lot more people are practicing it. And the interesting thing is, back in, so that answers your question about state control, the Falun Gong. And I
Yes.
was in Canada not too long ago, a few years ago, and we were driving from not Ottawa, but anyway, in Ontario. And my Qigong master said, "Look at those are the Falun Gong people practicing in the park." I said, "Okay." It meant nothing to me at the time, but obviously people believe in it, believe in Qigong, if you will, first of all, and they like that practice because they feel that it gives them the results that they want. The other thing is the whole concept of traditional Chinese medicine, um, although it was practiced for thousands of years in China and also in other parts of the world in different forms, but in China specifically, when Nixon visited China in 1972, he had a pool of reporters that followed him over there. One of them became ill and went to a hospital, and one of his buddies went with him to make sure that everything was going to, he'd be taken care of. What he discovered while he was at the hospital, somebody, a Chinese sick person, was on an operating table, and they were operating on him with open heart surgery with no anesthesia. They were using acupuncture needles. That's how sophisticated acupuncture is in traditional Chinese medicine. And then since the 70s, some Qigong masters started traveling. They might have followed, in the case of my grandmaster, Wai Chao Wu, his children emigrated to Canada. So when he retired, he was a grandmaster recognized by the Board of Qigong Masters and Martial Artists in China in the Guangdong province. He retired, very honorably recognized by the Chinese government. He went to Canada. And so he and a few other people have been there, and they've been teaching Qigong. So things have kind of ramped up very slowly, but the practice has begun to grow significantly because of the benefits. It costs you nothing then other than investing, a few $100s, if you will, to learn a form, to be part of a group. But the benefits are obvious. I mean, there's some on my website, and if you go to YouTube, you'll find a lot of different testimonials of Qigong masters doing the work that they do. So it's still, back then it was considered secret, and it has grown because of the immigration, if you will, of some of these very talented and very professional teachers that went to the West. I see stuff in Europe. I see people, all over the world, really, that are now practicing Qigong. So I think it's a tremendous practice. It's all natural. There's a few people in our area that I have gone to in the past, and they use herbs, nothing from big pharma. So that's a big advantage right there. This is all natural, working with your body, your natural capabilities, and no side effects. So there's no downside to this practice at all.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. I've been a big advocate of all kinds of holistic medicines. I tore my hamstring away when I was in Australia, completely away from my glute. And had I not had access to a practitioner that was a master of acupuncture, I don't know that I ever would have walked again the same way. And it was really remarkable, the amazing healing that I got from that. And so ever since then, I've been a huge advocate of acupuncture and other modalities, and certainly nutritional and spiritual and so forth. So this part of what we're discussing is a little new to me, and I'm very grateful for your time and sharing it with everybody. And it's another piece to you. We know you as the Grand Master of Common Law, and
Well, thank you
we
for
bow
that.
down to you on that level. But so it's nice to hear the other side of it and what centers you and keeps you at peace and harmony and level. And I don't think you should work on the eye thing, because if you get your glasses, I'm not sure we'll recognize you anymore.
You bring up a good last point, which is that when one practices, qigong and or tai chi, there is an elevation of one's energy and energy at a very high frequency. This is very, very important these days because if one is susceptible to fear porn, right, it can cause a lot of damage, both psychologically and physiologically.
Mhm.
So for me, I don't feel affected by it. I certainly don't enjoy reading some of the things that we hear about, but I know that I am not subject to being influenced by that low vibration, that low frequency at all. So this is another point which is really critical, very positive right now. In doing these practices, my energy and vibration and frequency is extremely high, and I don't,
Yeah.
it just rolls off my back basically.
Particularly now, people are so inundated with hearing everything, and we're not talking about the traditional media, which we don't go near. Though I always say it's good once in a while to take a listen to know what's going on, but in small bites. But even in the podcast world, in the alternative media world that we're listening to, there's a lot coming in. And even just the stuff we feel and the frequencies of the fear and so forth are going on, it really attacks you at a neurological level, but it also exhausts you. And that stress reduces your energy level down to nothing. I know people that say, I can't even get out of the bed in the morning. And when I do, I find myself just crawling back into bed. That is a form of depression in a way, but it's more psychological now with what's going on because we are in a psychological war. We've been attacked with MK Ultra and all this stuff going on forever, and now it's coming to roost, and it's really coming to a head, and we're feeling that frequency push upon us. And if we're not breathing and doing our meditations and doing the things to level it out, along with the Schumann resonance, is obviously off the charts now and again. There's a lot coming at us, and that energy just gets zapped. And this is a very common thing that I hear from our listeners about energy. So they should contact you and talk to you about it more. And if they want to do that or get in touch with you or train with you, can they do it online if they're out of town, or how can they get in touch with you and get started?
Well, they certainly, I think qigong is easier to teach virtually, if you will. Tai chi is a lot more complicated. I mean, today I was in the class and the teacher made a slight adjustment and made a huge difference. So yeah, I have taught qigong online. That is doable. So we could set that up. But they can contact me on my website, which is universalqigong.net, and yeah, we can go from there. Yeah. So thank you.
Okay. Well, no, thank you, Ed. It's great. I'll put your stuff down below. I think we did it on the last one we did, and we put your information down there and so forth. I know you're working on your website. Is it still coming up and down, or is it functioning
Yeah,
now?
it's still in progress.
It's
I gotta, yeah.
Okay.
So,
So I want people to know, because if they go and they can't find that, please send us an email to wtpnlive@gmail.com, and I'll get an email to Ed, or we'll get you his email as well directly. And you can certainly get in touch with him. And he's a great guy. You guys know him from the program, but this is awesome. If you can do remote, I don't want to say remote viewing, but if you can do remote trainings as well as in person, that would be wonderful. And we really appreciate you, and thank you so much. I don't know, is there a bow that we're supposed to bow out, or no?
um,
I'm always
well,
joking.
sometimes what you do is you have your open left palm,
Okay.
right fist,
Ah,
and then you bow, and then you say "She Shifu,"
Shishya Shifu.
which
So
means thank you, teacher.
thank you, teacher. All right. Thank you so much, Ed. This has been fun. Really enjoyed it. I hope everyone else has. And we are going to do our sign off. We always say "we the people" is a term that declares that the Constitution derives its power not from the king and not from the president, certainly not this guy, or Congress, but from the people themselves. And so this is the People's Channel. And you've been asking for more health and energy stuff. And so we're providing what you asked for. And we do want to thank Ed again, and we will definitely keep in touch. And thanks for your support. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care and God bless everybody. Bye.